Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Natalie. This is Scientology Life After a Cult, where I talk about my 35 years in Scientology, in the Sea organization, and leaving with 3 generations of my family. But we are here to talk. I don't even know where to start. You know where I want to start? I think we all need to take a collective deep breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. If you want to take a deep breath with me, go ahead. But I'm I think it's trying to get a little centered here. There is a lot to talk about. Good morning to everybody in the chat. If you're catching this on the replay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Or if you're listening from another part of the world right now, it's probably afternoon or evening for you. Hello as well. Good to see everybody here. As we go along, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel, hit the like button. And again, if you're catching this on the replay, I want to hear from you in the comments too. Oh, all right. Here we go. What the hell? Now, the hot topic, what we all know what happened. And look at me, I'm like already sweating and I even have the menopause fan going. Probably because I'm drinking coffee at the same time. Okay, what we know, what most of us saw play out yesterday and last night, depending on where you were watching from, Aaron Smith-Levin from Growing Up in Scientology was at the protest in Hollywood. Liz Gale was there. Liz Gale, you can find her on YouTube, Liz Gale Gale, and also on TikTok. Literally Serge, Laura FM, literally Serge's husband, literally Michael was there, just multiple people. The usual from the TikTok crowd and YouTube, Jessica PALMADESSA, Scientology Audit Streets LA, Confident Chris Without a Hellcat. I put links in the description of this video to some of the videos that I'm going to be talking about. Jenna Miscavige was there. She's the niece of David Miscavige. But more importantly, she grew up in the Sea Org. She wrote a book that was absolutely amazing. It was so great to see her there as well. So many people coming together. Aaron shows up at this thing. He's not there, 20 minutes? Was it even 20 minutes, people? And he gets into an altercation. He gets assaulted. Y'all remember the man who had the dog, the pit bull. This was, what was it, 2 weeks ago, a week ago? Time is just like flying by so fast because every day something crazy is happening. This man with the pit bull has a history of being a Scientology defender, having a relationship with them inside, which fine, you can have a relationship with them. But he's been using this dog to try to intimidate protesters, and this dog has bitten people. This man has threatened people, yet somehow this man doesn't get picked up by the LAPD and taken away. Yet the second anybody from Scientology calls for things that are completely made up, the LAPD are there in an instant, are there so quickly. It's if you did not believe before that Scientology had an incestual and corrupt relationship with certain people in the LAPD, I don't see how you couldn't see that now after what happened yesterday on multiple live streams from multiple angles. So Aaron gets there. He's there about 20 minutes or so. And this guy with the dog, with the pit bull, walks by him. Aaron pivots and's like, oh, hey, that's the guy whose dog had bit people before. And the guy hears him and he turns around and he's like, what, or whatever. And then, Aaron's like, yeah, you're the guy with the dog, blah, blah, blah. And this guy snaps and he goes off and he goes at Aaron and he whacks him. Somebody tell me in the chat or in the comments, did he actually hit him with his hand or was he hitting him with his cane? Not that it matters. It's assault, clearly, in both cases. Knocks his phone out of his hand. The phone goes down. The live stream stays on. Other people are catching this as well. Now, this happened a little ways down from the Hollywood Testing Center. So there weren't as many people there with cameras. It was a hand. Okay, so Swedish people, some people are saying it was a hand, his fist. You could see the reason why I thought it was his hand and his fist because the mark was so big because Aaron's got the bald head, or as I like to call him, the solar panel for a sex machine. for bald men in general. I'm not just saying this about Aaron. So you could really see it. You could see the mark on his head. He was obviously assaulted. And from there, it just becomes something out of a movie. Did anyone notice how many people in the end were actually watching this live? I think it was over 7,000, 8,000 on Aaron Growing Up in Scientology stream, and then there were multiple streams covering it as well. This guy walks away. Some people go looking for him. I think it was literally Michael, who's Serge's husband, and locates him. And some people are following him. The police are called. The police don't show up. It took forever for the police to show up. Cornelius is saying it was like 8,500 in the stream. That sounds about right. The police don't show up. I'm watching this thinking, where are the police? Surely the police are going to show up. Surely the police are around the corner somewhere, knowing that this was probably going to be a busier day of protesting outside the Hollywood Testing Center. No one shows up. At one point, a cop car pulls up. One of the protesters, pulls up on the street on the side. One of the protesters goes over and hey, is cluing them in on what happened. And they tell the guy to get out of the street. They don't stop and help. Aaron's just been assaulted. They're telling the police what happened. Nothing gets done. They just continue on about their business. Wasn't until further away. And we'll kind of go over the gist of what happened, and then we'll dive into what we think kind of was happening behind the scenes. They go a bit of ways, and this is where I know my heart started really pounding, because you could see there was a lot of tension. There were other people there on the scene. That the guy with the dog, I believe he's referred to as Patrick, but that's his middle name from what I've heard. So let's just, for simple purposes, let's call him Patrick. Patrick with the dog, or the assailant. He goes to an area where it seems like he has some friends there. And these guys are kind of backing him up and starting to get into the face of some of the protesters who are following Patrick because the police are called, and he just assaulted someone. So the crowd starts gathering. The police are still not there. Finally, the police show up. They're talking to this guy, and they're so laid back and casual about it. Anytime they come up on a protester outside the Hollywood Testing Center or anywhere for Scientology, it's sirens, it's handcuffing somebody, they're going right into action. But in this situation, they're sitting back, and it's like they're just having coffee or something in a casual conversation with Patrick, who has a dog, who just assaulted Aaron. They get showed the video multiple times from different angles about what happened. It is very clear what happened. Yet Patrick, the one who committed the assault, gets to go around and tell his version of events over and over and over again, over and over and over again. And people who are around there who didn't even see what happened, they weren't there where the assault happened. It looked like they're sharing their perspective about it, and somehow backing up this guy's story. And this whole narrative of Patrick being stalked by Aaron, which is ridiculous. Aaron was there for 20 minutes. He had never met this guy before. So we know that that's a lie. We know that that's a narrative that was perpetuated and told to the police, and that the LAPD ran with it. Now, this one guy, the officer who seemed to be in charge of this situation, this is when I was feeling really icky about it. When he got there, and rather than going and addressing what's happening or addressing the victim, just even let's start there, he goes around and plays mayor with people around there, like he's on some kind of a tour, like he's running for office. What's that? And from there on, it just went downhill. It took forever. Eventually, somebody came and kind of took the dog, but didn't fully take the dog away. Finally, the officer spoke to Aaron, and it was just, he had to explain himself multiple times to officers on the scene, other ones that came later. And this is all going on, and so much time is passing by, and we're all watching this going, how is the man who hit and assaulted Aaron on camera, on multiple cameras, not in the back of a police car? It was, I'm sure all of you were infuriated along with me. I couldn't believe it. I was watching it with my Tony, and early on, Tony's like, they're gonna take Aaron away. I'm like, no, babe, it was all on camera. It was seen. It was seen that this guy assaulted Aaron. My Tony always calls it. He's like, no, they're there to get Aaron. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, that's true. They are, because what David Miscavige would want is Aaron in handcuffs. That is the whole goal. That is the whole goal for Scientology and what David Miscavige would want. And the whole thing, we'll talk about in a minute how this is going to completely backfire on Scientology. So, Tony's telling me this, like, no, this is how it's going to go down. And I'm like, no, because I was still having a hard time believing. How can you see actual video footage of what happened and think it was some other way, even from different angles? It was so obvious that this specific officer, this specific person, that was the goal, was to get Aaron in the back of a police car. And at one point, Aaron's told, if you want this guy arrested, Patrick, the one with the dog who assaulted Aaron, I'm going to have to arrest you also for felony stalking. To which Aaron's like, do it. Whatever you got to do, do it. But this guy needs to be arrested. And you guys all probably heard felony stalking does not fit at all. I am no legal expert by any means. I did put a link in the description to Zach's video, our lawyer friend Zach. He gave a great rundown about the legal side of it. So I won't get too much into that because he did a great job. But as William Goot, Scientology Audit Streets LA, said when he showed up, they read the definition of felony stalking. It doesn't pan out. So all this time is going by. Nothing's being done to take this guy away. Aaron's being treated like he's a perpetrator rather than the victim of what happened. More police cars, 2 helicopters are out there. What was it on Hollywood and Highland? Hollywood and Ivar? Somebody knows in the chat. They shut the block down. There's more people gathering around. The police start kind of gathering together, and you're like, and Aaron says, he's like, they're coming for me. They're going to take me. And I'm still thinking at that point, no, he's the victim. They saw the video. How could this be? That would be next level corruption, right? And meanwhile, my Tony's sitting there and he's like, yep, this is going down. They're totally taking him. And they do. They move forward. They surround Aaron. There's at that point, somebody else has Aaron's phone, and it's not clearly captured on Aaron's stream. It is somewhat, but I watched other streams later, and you could see what was happening and how he was being handcuffed, and he was cooperating from what you could see. The man who committed the assault with a dog, whose dog had bit other people before. This man had threatened other people before. This man on camera, on video, threatens Aaron to kill him and other people before he goes and actually attacks him. I mean, I just, it's just, if the shoe was on the other foot, I mean, we all know this would have gone down completely differently. But because of this incestual relationship, this corrupt relationship that Scientology has with certain members of the LAPD, there's a long history of it. This is what happens. And this is the kind of thing this is why it's so wonderful that what people like William Goot are doing to expose this type of police corruption. It was so blatant. It was so obvious. It was so infuriating. I had it up on the big screen. I was just yelling at the television. I don't know about you guys. So they detain Aaron. They got him up against the police car. They got cops out there trying to keep people away. They put him in the back of the police car. They take him to the Hollywood station. They take Patrick, the guy with the dog who actually did the assault in the first place. They head to the Hollywood Police Department. I got to have a sip of coffee. Oh my gosh. And he's there for what, 5-6 hours? So people from the protests were out there, and that crowd was growing. They were inside the building. No one was going to leave until Aaron was let go. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, surely it's like, what is it, 45 minutes? Maybe they'll let him out, maybe a couple hours. It was like 5-6 hours where he was with his hands behind his back, chained to a bench. And at one point, the same officer with the sunglasses who showed up, who went around playing mayor, glad-handing people instead of doing his job, says to chain Aaron up in the bathroom. He tried to chain him up in the bathroom. Another officer comes up seeing an officer doing that. It's like, hey, you can't do that. That's gross. Get him out of there, and puts a stop to it. It was completely done just to harass and intimidate Aaron and satisfy Scientology. That's It's so obvious. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. So everybody's outside. People are delivering, sharing, bringing food for them, bringing water for them. The crowd is growing out there. It's the support for Aaron and this movement is just overwhelming. And like I said, 5, 6 hours later, Aaron gets released and comes out, and then it's just cheering and tons of support. And he shares, and I link to his videos as well below. He shares what happened, shares about when they tried to put him in the bathroom, just all of these things. They go back to the Hollywood Testing Center and kind of continue the party on there. There's more drama that happened there on multiple streams. And, we'll get to some of that as well. It's I just don't even I've never seen something so blatantly corrupt like that. Well, no, I have. With people so, you know, in law enforcement, I'm almost speechless about it because it's so blatant. It's so obvious. This is the kind of thing that the behavior would happen, everything, right? Let's just look at everything as a whole. It's just so obviously Scientology's tactic to try and shut Aaron up and use him as an example that way and shut up other people. And it's just not going to happen. It's going to have the exact opposite effect. The worst thing for their public relations, for everything that Scientology could have done is what they did, what they orchestrated, and getting, Aaron put in handcuffs and detained at the Hollywood station. It's just the worst thing there's probably worse things they could have done, but it's going to completely backfire. But in the mindset of Scientology, what they're going to do is just take that snapshot of Aaron in handcuffs and tell the members of Scientology, especially the whales, the big donors, the people who there's no way this was everywhere. It was trending on Twitter. It was on multiple feeds. It is going to be for some time. Scientology and the LAPD just gave the biggest boost to this movement of exposing Scientology and sharing what really goes on. They could have not have been more helpful, because now the magnifying glass that's going to be on not just Scientology, but the LAPD as well, is going to get even stronger and even stronger. And this is just going to get even bigger and even bigger. There's just not a scenario where that's not the case. And the mindset of Scientology, they're just trying to satisfy a small amount of people to keep them continuing to support Scientology, to keep them to continue to give those donations. Mr. Slendy, thank you for the super chat. Who thought they were going to get justice in LA? Laughing my ass off. It's been soft on crime for a long time. They cuff up victims all the time for inconveniencing them. Remember, those cops make 6 figures annually, folks. Good point. Really good point. It's the fallout from this. What's going to continue beyond this is going to be something to see, something absolutely to see, because they just completely confirmed that relationship with Scientology. I mean, they already do. We knew about it. But these are the type of tactics. So Scientology is going to take it out of context and try to use it as showing that, this is who Aaron Smith-Levin really is, their narrative. And it really doesn't matter, because the vast majority of people outside of Scientology, well, not the vast majority. Yeah, the vast majority. There'll be a few, I'd say all, except, there'll be a few who don't get it. We'll look at this and see exactly what happened and see it for what it is and see it for what it was. But in the Scientology world, they're going to use it as, because Scientologists believe, because L. Ron Hubbard told Scientologists that when the squirrels are howling, suppressive people, squirrels, that means that Scientology is winning. Well, Dictator Dave, the rest of Scientology, you must really think you're really, really winning then. They're going to think they're so winning, because if they think that there's been noise about this so far, the magnifying glass on them, the spotlight on them is just going to get brighter, and the sunshine that's going to shine in on the truth of what they're doing to bring attention to the fact that they're a human trafficking cult, to bring attention to the abuses, to bring attention to how they cover up crimes of Scientologists, crimes of assault. I mean, you can go on and on and on, right? We all know what happens. I've shared on my channel what happened over 35 years with me and my family. The Sea organization covered up my sexual assault. I was quiet about it for 20 years till I wasn't. There's this long history of doing it, holding people against their will, being put under security watch is what they call it. I was put under security watch a couple times at the Blue Buildings where I wasn't now allowed to leave. Somebody had to be watching me the whole time because they knew that I wanted to leave, and they didn't want me to go to the police. They didn't want me to even seek medical treatment for what happened to me. And that's in an earlier video. And I'm only saying this because this is a long history. This goes back decades, what they've been doing. And we're going to watch it play out. We're going to see it play out. There's going to be now, I mean, just more and more evidence and people coming forward sharing their stories. And the crazy thing is, all you got to do is look at how Scientology is behaving right now, right? How they're choosing to show up for this, how they're choosing to, how they're going to try and twist this story, but you can't. It's on camera. It's all out there. And the thing about that Scientology mindset is Scientologists the vast majority of them are not going to seek out like, well, let's see what someone else said about it. I know what my church is telling me. If something comes up in their feed about this, here's the thing. Now is the time to get this out in your feeds. Now is the time to get this on social media, on every platform, to make clips of different videos, shorts, reels, whatever it is, and flood the internet with it, which it already was before, but it's even going to be that way now. Because it's a bigger light now on what Scientology has been doing for decades. And the thing about with Scientologists, they're not going to be able to avoid it. It's going to show up on their social media. It's why I keep joking, saying that, I think Scientology will just ban their members from being on social media to begin with, because it's something they cannot control. And there are people in Scientology who have doubts. And when they see things like this, which if they, in Scientology, there's a phrase, L. Ron Hubbard says, pulling the string. If there's a situation and there's this little string sticking out that's an out point, right? It shouldn't be there. It doesn't make sense. Scientologists are also, especially if you were a staff member or a Sea organization member, you were trained in pulling that string to find out what's behind it. Where does it lead to until you get to what the actual truth is? And this is kind of the interesting about Scientology. On one hand, in the Sea organization especially, they will train you and indoctrinate you to think a certain way and be a certain way, but you kind of get good at investigating and pulling things back this way. On the flip side, you were indoctrinated to never look at Scientology itself through that lens until you do. Until you do. I was one of those people I grew up in Scientology, was in the Sea organization. I've been a staff member. I've been a regular Scientology parishioner, was trained by them. And then when major stuff started, it just got, you know what? Ultimately, it was about my kids. Then I started going, well, wait a minute. They trained me to investigate and look at things a certain way. What if I use that to look at them that way? Use the same things I learned in Scientology as a Sea organization member to look at Scientology like that. And I did. And you know what I found out? I found out I was in a cult. And I thought, okay, using that way of thinking on them through that lens at them helped me figure out I was in a cult. So what would happen if I took some of the other things they trained me in and I turned it back on them? That's what helped me leave Scientology. That's how I got 3 generations of my family out of Scientology. So I guess in a way, I have Scientology and the Sea organization to thank for opening my eyes that I was in a cult and to help me figure out how to get 3 generations of my family out. It took me 2 years, primarily because my daughter, who was 18 at the time, was in Florida doing training to be a staff member here in the Twin Cities where I live. And because she had turned 18 while she was there, they could have sent her anywhere to get her away from me, and they would have done that. And she was still very much brainwashed. So I had work to do to work with her. You'll clap when I'm gone. Thank you so much for the super chat. So but you get the idea. There's this long history. I think that this is also an opportunity for many people under the radar to really see what's happening, and Scientologists themselves to understand what's happening, the level of fraud and corruption within Scientology and the people who are around them. And eventually I'll do a video. My sister's going to join me, I think on Monday. My sister Lana, on my channel, there's a couple videos. My sister was in the Sea Organization at 14, and she had some pretty horrific things happen to her. And for the first time in 35 years, 30 years, 25 years since she was there, she is even sharing with me what happened. So she's going to come on, and I'm looking forward to kind of getting her take on all this as well. But we've had conversations about this, how for a Scientologist, if you were a trained Scientologist in certain ways in the Sea Organization, when you take the lens that they want you looking at the rest of the world with through that lens, that the people out there are criminals, that people who speak out against Scientology are only doing so because they have crimes against Scientology. That's what you're trained to believe in Scientology. Turn that lens back on the Church of Scientology. Look at them through that lens. Ask those same questions that they want you to ask about people who dare to question Scientology about Scientology. It's crazy. It is crazy. I'm going to jump into these comments a little bit because I want to know what you guys are saying here. Leaving Scientology. Yes, Scientology is mafia. Seems like it, right? Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. Candy, I shared with so many people that have never had anything to do with Scientology. This only showed a brighter spotlight on them. Yeah. Yeah, it is. That's why it's so horrifically fabulous. Lily Castle, thank you for the super chat. I had a date last night and missed the whole thing. The one time I have a life, LOL. Thanks for catching me up. Lily, you should have a life. And that's a good point too. I want to remind, I'm sure most of you do. Maybe everybody's not. It's you got to have a life. I'm going to go to an RV show later today, but I'm still going to be tracking what's going on. You got to have a life. Kendall saying he may not be a real Scientologist, but he has a speaker at many events for Scientology. So you're talking about the police officer who showed up to Glad Hand, tried to have Aaron locked up in a bathroom. Yes, I've heard that too, that he's been at multiple Scientology events. He is obviously an ally of Scientology. I think that's something that seems, I think that's something that, that is pretty obvious. Tell me what you, the fact that Aaron was in there for so long, and he wasn't booked, he wasn't fingerprinted, there was no mugshot. He was just detained for several hours. It's so obviously harassment and a move to try and detract and get everybody moved away from the Scientology testing center. Because ultimately, remember, these things that the Church of Scientology does, that the cult does, are to distract from them. But it's a tactic that doesn't work. What they're doing is what L. Ron Hubbard told them to do in the 50s and 60s. They can't do that now because of the internet, because all these things are being live streamed, and you can get a message out so fast to so many people that this is why this is not going to work today. Yet they're still going to try and do that. RNLC for moms and babes. Thank you for the super chat. Natalie, thanks for the perspective. What do you think about Twilla being on the phone? Then Patrick shows up and the test center doors close. Oh, I will tell you what I think. I think it's the same thing all of you are thinking. We've seen this happen over and over again. Hollywood Testing Center, right? Doors are open. They've got the windows, the blinds and things on the windows now, even though you can still see in. They close their door right before someone shows up to try and create trouble. They've done it more times than we can count. So that's a great point. And if you watch, I think it might even have been on Aaron's stream, you could see the intensity in which Twilla was on the phone. And remember the guy, mustard pants with the yellow pants from the night before, who was defending Scientology? Well, he said he wasn't defending Scientology. He was defending the people inside, specifically Twilla, right? That was another relationship of hers, or Scientology's. She gets on the phone, they close the door, all hell breaks loose multiple times, over and over and over again. What? You know what? Is that the only phone in the place? If you're Twilla and you're going to like call the operative, or more than likely, so let's put a pin in that part for a minute. More than likely, I would be surprised, although I don't put anything past Scientology these days, that Twilla was coordinating all of that. Usually it's someone from the Office of Special Affairs, or more likely it's like Scientology hires attorneys who hires private investigators, who hire private investigators, who hire people to try and cause trouble. Early on in this, Scientology put out an email to people that was leaked, where they said they're going to be out there trying to turn TikTok back on the live streamers and the protesters, and they're going to use their cameras to do it, which all failed that night that they went out to video. But they think that these things work. And I'm telling you, it's not for the public in general. Scientology does this for their members, for their big supporters, including allies in their community. So they can say, they call in these false bomb threats, these false threats, so they can play the victim. They can position themselves with true victims of religious discrimination. This is how Scientology has tried to position themselves over and over and over again. They have a long history of that, and it goes way back. It goes way back. Trust me on that one. You can look it up. Way back. Because let's not forget, one of the largest FBI raids to ever happen was when the FBI raided Scientology back in the late 70s. One of the largest infiltrations of the United States government was done by the Church of Scientology in the 70s, who infiltrated 136 different government offices, including Interpol, including the IRS. Then you fast forward to, what was it, 93, and they get tax exempt status. It stinks, and it has for years. It has for years. This is why it's so important to cut off the money. They need to lose their tax exempt status. This is a great time to reach out to your elected officials in your communities, reach out to your people in Congress, and ask the question, would you support a hearing into Scientology's tax exempt status? That is the message to get out there. There's so much that's fascinating about this, and there's a lot of drama, and there's a lot of craziness going on, and there's going to be more. But let's make sure we're also getting out the message. Contact your people in Congress and ask them, demand them to answer the question, would you support a hearing into Scientology's tax exempt status? It's an easy question for them to answer. They're all up for re-election this year. Aaron did a poll on his channel asking, would you support a candidate from a different party, if you're of a different party from you, if part of their platform was to support a hearing looking into the Scientology's tax exempt status? And 75% of people said, yeah, they would. So this is something that people need to ask. Tons of people need to ask and share those responses. If you can get it on video, better even. That makes it even better. This is a great opportunity because there's going to be so many more eyes on Scientology, on the protest movement, to get that message out. Question your elected officials about it. They have teams of people who will look into things and research them, provide the information. It's out there. They're lazy if they don't find it on their own. It's out there, but you can also send it to them, things to educate them. And I mean, government officials of every level. I think Congress is very important because that's where this hearing can get done. But even on a local level, think about the mayors in your community, right? The city council in your community. Where do people stand on this? Look at what's happening. What happened yesterday and last night is a great example of something that can be shared with them. Aaron was assaulted. He was physically assaulted and injured. There's no questioning that. We saw it. We saw the guy who did it, who is still sitting in jail. Hopefully he is. As far as I know, if anybody knows different, let me know. Let me know. There's some of your comments are really funny. I'm not going to be able to say that. Scientology is watch list with constitutional threats in other countries for a reason. Yes, Scientology is on a watch list in different countries. Somebody from Sweden was saying that, was it Sweden or Germany? There, and if you're in the chat, jump in with that, or maybe later in the comments, just how Scientology is viewed there. It's different in different countries. But a lot of that too is we have a different constitution in the United States, but this is being abused. This is being abused, and Scientology hides behind this idea that they are being prosecuted for their religious beliefs. They're not. Go believe in Xenu and body thetans all you want. You want to do Scientology counseling? Knock yourself out. As long as other people aren't being abused, stalked, harassed in the process. Why can't you just do that? Why can't you just go practice your religion? And if people want to leave, let them leave. It's worked for other religions. It's because Scientology is a cult. Scientology is a human trafficking organization. Scientology is a business. And we're seeing this play out. And to get the members to stay in line, they have to work really hard to create a narrative that the people being critical of Scientology are the problem. And Patrick, the guy who had the dog, why'd he have 5 knives on him? I mean, I get, you're walking around in LA. I don't know what the rules are. Maybe pepper spray, maybe a knife, but 5? Okay, so people are saying he's still in jail. That's good. Yeah. England, Germany. Yeah. Whole different view on Scientology. And Cornelius, good point. A dog can also be a weapon. This dog has been used as a weapon. I feel bad for the dog. I really do. He is getting worked up, amped up, attacking people, biting people. That's not good for the dog either. That's just sad to see. So Mark Murphy is saying, we did find out that the dog was rented. We saw the real dog owner the dog was happy to see. Mark, help me understand that. How do you know that? I saw the guy who picked up the dog. The dog was very happy to see him. But if I'm going to be honest, my dog, I have a 100-pound giant schnauzer named Odin. And I know he loves me, but he's way happier when my sister shows up. So is there more information to that kind of backs that up? Because if it's just on how the dog responded, my dog does that when my sister shows up, doesn't act like that when I show up. But maybe could be too. I could see that, which, gosh, that just even makes it worse because you're using somebody else's dog to do this. And the dogs bit people and just nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. That's the thing that you're right, Karen. He's harassed them before multiple times. Why wasn't he picked up before? Diane, yes, you're in a cult and how they treat you when you're leaving, just saying. Yeah, exactly. The harassment, right? Here's how what happens to them when they're trying to leave Scientology. It depends on how you leave. If you're an everyday parishioner, you're not a staff member, you're not a C organization member, you just start not showing up to things. Some people just completely cut it off and say, I'm done. I would say the majority ghost them. In large part because it's like, hey, if you have any relationships in Scientology, family, business, friend, and you want to keep that intact, at the beginning, you want to leave quietly. When I left Scientology after 35 years, my initial plan, I just want my family. I'm going to leave quietly. I'm going to leave. I'm just going to go about my business. I just want to get on with my life. I want to experience life free as an adult. I want to be able to make my own decisions. I want to be able to do what I want when I want. I want to be able to have my own thoughts and figure out how I feel about things rather than just what they told me I should be feeling, I should be thinking, I should be doing. I should. I hate I shoulds. I hate shoulds. Sometimes there's good shoulds. I will say that, but you get the idea. It's all part of that control and that mind control. Sweets here. I'm from the Netherlands. What I can say is that your police and justice system is, yeah. Don't even get me started on healthcare. Oh, T and Jenny, that dog was fear aggressive. Yeah, people have experiences with dogs. I mean, I have a dog. I don't know a ton about dogs, but I felt that. It felt you could kind of like feel the dog was being very aggressive, but I thought so too. That it was more, out of fear. Because you could see when the dog would start getting worked up. Yeah, Chi Chicana says he could have just been a vet buddy, the guy who came to pick up the dog. That's true. That's true. Carla, email LAPD chief of police. There's the email. It's in the live chat there. And yeah, the other guy took the dog and the dog was happy and all that. Yeah. Susie Q in Sweden, they also have tax exempt status. Someone from Sweden said that on a chat last night. Yes. I think even the person who said it was surprised to find that out. It seems like, I mean, it's even abusive towards that animal to use a dog that way. But who knows? Whether it's his dog or not his dog, it doesn't change what actually happened with the dog, that the dog bit multiple people and that happened. So that's that it, however that works out. Sweet, that's funny. You talk and laugh like Emily D. Baker. I've watched some of her videos. I like them. I'll have to watch it more to see if that's true. So be kind to saying the guy produced paperwork, the dog was a service dog. That is another thing to question and follow up. If it is fake papers, perhaps a fine is in order. True. He's not going to be the first one that has fake paperwork for a service dog. And I find it hard to believe like that a service dog would be that aggressive or be trained to be that aggressive or be allowed to be that aggressive. I don't know a lot about training service dogs or what happened. So you guys tell me, but that's difficult to believe. So afterwards, they're all back at the Hollywood Testing Center and, Aaron was there. Liz was there, people were there, and it was celebratory, which was nice, but there was a bunch of drama that was kind of occurring there as well. Yep, you're right. In UFC 1892, that same guy attacked streets with his same dog a few days ago. And a week or two prior, he's been out there a lot. And right before he comes, they do shut the door at the Hollywood Testing Center. Jess, I'm with you. That dog was trained to be that way, and it breaks my heart. Isn't it it's funny too that, and by the way, people, make sure, please subscribe to my channel and please like this video as you go along. I hope almost that somebody else owns the dog and they just keep the dog at home. I don't know how this guy's allowed to walk around with a guy like that. Yep, that was the same thing, same guy. So Magnolia is saying there's no papers for service dogs in the United States. I have no clue, but that is interesting. Foxy Jane, I have not seen. So question, did you see the Scientology article about their relationship with LAPD and name-dropped Officer Talman? I did not see it. I heard about it. I heard somebody read part of it. My email's natalie@tonkatalk.com if you want to email me anything. Stinky Cat, yeah, service dogs don't act like that. They're highly trained. That's what I thought. I don't know a ton about it, but that's how it seemed to be to me. Willie Weed, he attacked because Aaron was calling him out for attacking the Squirrel Squad. Yeah, that's exactly it. That seemed to be what made him snap and set him off. And then he goes around the corner somewhere and immediately, because I had different streams going and then I was kind of looking to see who was live. And he was on somebody else's channel giving his version of events very suddenly, calmly. And that's when he went down further and was followed by different people who were live streaming because it took the police forever to get there. It took them forever to get there. That's something that still, I mean, I would like to know. I can't wait to see the response from the LAPD. This is a public relations nightmare. for them, a true nightmare, because we all watched it. We all watched it play out. We all watched this intense situation. Someone was assaulted, and this Officer Talman shows up and is acting like he's mayor, going around shaking hands and all that. Like, where? And then tries to lock Aaron in a bathroom. It's so blatantly obvious. And I cannot wait to see the fun that Aaron has with this. Because he's going to have a lot of fun with it. And he said on his stream that he's going to bring forth a lawsuit over this whole thing as well. So Willie Weed's saying, I was in Surges, but saw it in a clip this morning. Yeah. The level 2, think about this. I mean, to be honest, when they were out there on the street and there's 2 helicopters overhead and there's 7, 8 police cars, maybe there was more, you tell me in the chat or the comments, it was getting really intense at that point. When the LAPD came together, they had their arms like this and they were pushing back the crowd so they could surround Aaron and put him in handcuffs. And then Patrick, the guy with the dog, you kind of just didn't know what was going to happen. There were so many people who were getting involved in this drama, who were coming forth too, and speaking to the police officers that didn't see what happened earlier. And you got to question, what are all the relationships here? Let's talk about that for a minute. It's when you look at it from the beginning all the way through, it really does look like something that was very orchestrated. I mean, I think we know that that's just a fact. You can't always control every movement, right? There's so many moving parts. But where else do you see this? Where we've been watching this in front of the Hollywood Testing Center, in front of the blue buildings, in the different Scientology buildings. We have been watching protesters there. We have been watching the LAPD being called over false reports, false claims of violence, false threats over and over and over again. And they're there. They're there. They show up so quick, and they usually often will just put somebody in handcuffs. And then you find out oh, I guess there's really nothing here. Over and over and over again, there has been a cut and paste email that's been being sent from the LAPD to people who've reached out demanding an investigation into why these false threats and claims being made by Scientology to the LAPD, trying to weaponize the police, trying to claim people have weapons that fire out there and get a police response for that. Why isn't that being investigated? People have been calling, people have been emailing it. And here's the thing. So this cut and paste email's gone out as a response saying that there is an investigation over these false police reports. There better be. And why didn't the police show up? Why did it take them so long to show up when there was an actual assault? Even Scientology had to know. They watch everybody's streams. They're seeing it play out. They have their own cameras. They have cameras everywhere, the Church of Scientology. Scientology's cameras are not just focused on their property. Their cameras are looking at everything around. The LAPD goes to the Church of Scientology for video footage anytime there's some type of crime or incident around that area because their cameras are so high tech and their security that's out there. Yet, someone actually gets assaulted and hurt and nobody shows up. It takes forever for them to show up. I am my K-Ron wasting time suing that PD. No, I don't think it's going to be a waste of time. It needs to be done. At what point, how long do you let it go on? It was so blatant, so blatantly wrong. This is something that, regardless of your feelings about Scientology, that people should be worried about and concerned about and demanding that something be done about it because it's outright corruption. We saw it right before our eyes. I absolutely could not believe what I was seeing. Debbie B, there was a cop car that drove past them 15 minutes after they called. They did not stop. Aaron had it on his live. Yeah, there were multiple ones. Like I said earlier, even the guy outside the testing center who came up, went up to the police car trying to say, hey, this guy just got hit in the head, this assault. And they told him to get out of the street. It's just mind-boggling, mind-boggling. And that it took so long, right? Salty Rider, 2 friggin' hours they stood around and then arrested the victim. Took him into custody. Lisa Pete, the way the police came after Aaron was ridiculous while they're standing around with a guy and assault her. Yeah. And okay, here's what blew my mind. You know, right? You see the video from different people. You see Aaron get assaulted. The guy who did it is standing right there with this dog. How long was he standing there with 5 knives in his pocket? Where was the, well, we just want to be on the safe side and protect the public? You just heard his dog was getting aggravated again at times. You see this. This guy's being allowed to go into his pockets and pull out his phone. He could have pulled anything out. Why was he not immediately detained? But it was just allowed to play out. I couldn't, that I think for me is some of just like what is incredibly hard to wrap my head around. And you can't because it's insanity, and you can't because it's 100%. It was such a corrupt situation. Thank you, Dip Me in Glitter. Yep. Make sure you like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I'm on here every day live streaming Monday through Friday, Central Time around 7:30 a.m. and on the weekends between 9 and 10. I am going to work towards committing to an actual time on the weekends though. Larry B, thank you for the super chat. I think the Church of Scientology, LAPD, made their move because Streets wasn't there. The dog guy had an assignment. It was all a setup. Yeah, I agree too. That's why the doors were closed outside the Hollywood Testing Center right before it happened. That's why this guy walks down right when, Aaron's there. This whole narrative and idea, the whole operation, however it was going to go down, was to get Aaron in handcuffs, because that is something that Dictator David Miscavige gets off on. And Aaron has been a thorn in his side, and in more than a thorn in Scientology, as have the protesters out there, as have everyone that is choosing to speak out and share their experience in Scientology. And this is not going to detract from that. It brings more attention to it. And the question I get often is, well, why does Scientology continue to do things that result in even more of a public relations nightmare for them? Because Scientology, the Sea organization, David Miscavige, need to follow what L. Ron Hubbard said to do back when he wrote it in the 50s and the 60s. It wasn't relevant then. It's not relevant now. L. Ron Hubbard says, never defend, always attack. You don't see Scientology out there like, you know what? Here's why we're not a human trafficking cult. They're never going to say those words. They'll talk in generalities, like these accusations are unfounded, blah, 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 blah. It just didn't happen. But never defend, always attack. L. Ron Hubbard said that. L. Ron Hubbard also told them that Scientology is to help the able be more able. And by able, they mean if you have a pulse and a wallet, you're able to pay for Scientology, then we'll give you some Scientology. All of the front group activity that Scientology does through their Way to Happiness, through their pretend drug rehabilitation programs, through their pretend Criminon activities, they do that because they want to create some feel-good feelings about Scientology in the community. They want to be able to go out and say, well, look what we're doing. Look what we're doing here. We've gotten this many people off drugs. Remember, David Miscavige just said at their New Year's event that the day the Way to Happiness booklets arrived in Portland, crime went down. Real big surprise to people in Portland too. So this is the kind of propaganda that Scientology will continue to share and try to put out there, but people aren't buying it. Cindy says Aaron never should have said he was coming. He should have just showed up. No, trust me when I tell you, they would have known. They would have known. Scientology has a long history. Office of Special Affairs, working through their different connections, can find out people's airlines flights. They know. One time when I was trying to leave, when I was in Los Angeles, and I went to where I was staying, and I was there in Los Angeles because I was trying to leave the Sea organization, and they were just giving me the runaround, and I had it, and I wanted to go home back to Seattle where I lived at the time. And so I was done with this. So I went back to where I was staying. I scheduled a cab for the next morning to take me to the airport. This was back in the day. So, there were no, no, I'm going blank. You know what I mean? The cars you call to come pick Uber, no Uber or Lyfts. We had to use taxis. And two people showed up at my hotel room at the door. And it was one of the heads of security for Scientology security, a Sea Org member who I knew well, and the Continental Justice Chief in Scientology. That is the person who you are told is your only point of contact once you've been declared a suppressive person. They were there to intimidate me into not leaving. They canceled my cab for the next day. They told me they did. And they said, if you leave, you will be declared a suppressive person. That's why this Continental Justice Chief was brought in at my hotel room at the door to try and intimidate me and stop me from leaving. I left anyways. I left. Later on, I ended up going back for my committee of evidence, which is like a court martial, and eventually left. And I shared that whole story on the earlier video. I don't want to get too much into that now, but it involved more cover-ups. Thank you, Not a Sheeple, for the super chat. I missed the assault, and then I made the mistake of clicking to something else for a bit. To my astonishment, when I went back, Aaron had been arrested. I felt sick to my stomach. Yeah, same. And he technically wasn't arrested. He was detained. It looked like he was being arrested. That one officer with the sunglasses said that what was it he said? Then I will have to arrest you for felony stalking. Felony stalking, for one, doesn't even come close to what happened. Aaron he'd never met this guy before. Aaron was there for 20 minutes. How could he have a history of stalking or following this gentleman? You also then would have to make a threat against him. Aaron was threatened. The protesters were threatened, not that guy, which we all know. I'm preaching to the choir here. But it just speaks to how twisted. And knowing that even the Office of Special Affairs in Scientology, who are watching this all play out, even they had to have known, well, let's just go with it. We just need to get him in handcuffs. Because trust me when I tell you, when Sea organization members, which is what the Office of Special Affairs is made up of, are ordered to do something by David Miscavige, they do it. They do it, or they are severely punished for it, for not doing it. So the more irrationality that came out, the more, like, you could just tell in my mind, I was just picturing David Miscavige somewhere with his communicator, with Lou, texting or talking to people, because he wouldn't be doing it directly. They try and build all these buffers between him and what he's actually telling people to do. You could just hear him on the phone telling them, tell them to send in the police. That's my David Miscavige voice, by the way. And this is how he's looking up at everybody else. It doesn't make sense because he doesn't make sense. There's such a disconnection between the way that the world we live in today works, even just with technology, live streaming, the internet, YouTube, how people have changed their views about certain things, certain Scientology. Remember, we're talking about a group that calls themselves the most ethical group on the planet. This is what they say about themselves. And this is what they say to their members. They are the most ethical group on the planet. So they're walking around thinking this. Hey, remember Tom Cruise when he got his giant medal from David Miscavige? They are the only ones who can help. They're the only ones that can do anything. If you get in a car accident, you better hope Tom Cruise is nearby because he's the only one that can help. This is the mentality, and why this condescending, holier than thou, thinking that they are the morality police, that it's up to them to judge how somebody else should live their life and what is right or wrong for them, is very extreme. The higher you go up in Scientology, from being an everyday parishioner who's taking courses, who's doing Scientology auditing, when you go up to becoming a staff member, the control gets worse. When you're in the C organization, the control is 24/7. You can't just walk off the base as a C organization member without permission. You can't just decide, you know what? I really feel like a movie tonight. No. Mm-mm. You're 24/7. If you're lucky, you're getting your $47 a week. You eat when they tell you to eat. You sleep when they tell you to sleep. The control is fierce. And the Office of Special Affairs, I'm sure they're sleep deprived and food deprived because what a mess. What a disaster. The fact that they thought it was a good idea to continue with this, right? Let's continue. Let's bring back the guy with the dog because, like, we don't already all know what he's doing. He's been out there multiple times harassing protesters. His dog has bitten people. Somehow this man wasn't picked up earlier by the LAPD, and then he's there again when Aaron's there for 20 minutes. Oh, that's not obvious at all. That's not obvious at all. But, even though the Church of Scientology, I think they kind of pride themselves of like, having all these investigative powers and all that, they cannot stand up to the power of a suppressive person or a squirrel, as they call it, because they're not allowed to hear anything coming out of the mouth of someone who's been declared a suppressive person. It's often why you'll see the behavioral change of the C organization members when someone who's been declared a suppressive person shows up. It's one thing with protesters and people exposing them and telling them about Xenu, but people who've been declared suppressive by the Church of Scientology tend to be their kryptonite. They are not allowed to listen. They are not allowed to look. They are not allowed to watch. They aren't. So this is the mindset. And then they use fear tactics on their own members. So Scientology has a narrative that they're giving their public parishioners, not all, but some of them, because at some point they have to let them know what's going on. And we saw it early on in that email that got leaked, that went out. I did a video about that where they were sharing how they were going to use their cameras against protesters and about the fake threats that Scientology called in. We saw that. So we know their playbook. And this is why it doesn't matter. Things don't need to be, you do you. They would have known Aaron was going out there whether or not he said anything. And there's no reason he needs to hide it. It should be, and that's the difference between Scientology and people who are exposing the abuses of Scientology. We're over here saying, hey, let's talk about it. Here's some information for you. Here's some firsthand accounts of this that back up what's happening in Scientology from a human trafficking standpoint, from the financial hardships that they put their members through. Bankrupting people. These are people who take people's credit cards in Scientology, pretend to be them and call credit card companies to get their limits raised. Sometimes without the owner of the credit card knowing. It's financial fraud. It's been reported. It's been shared with the FBI over and over and over again. And these are the reasons more and more of this is going to come out. And my hope, and I think this is what we're going to see happening, is more people putting pressure on their elected officials to look into the tax-exempt status of Scientology. That's right, too. There was that guy that showed up. Tim was sharing that Wicked Witch. He's hilarious and he's a joke. There was a guy who showed up who, I don't know if he's on YouTube or where he is, but he is a hot mess. Identifies as a Scientologist. It's kind of odd. And he was there harassing Aaron. And here's the interesting thing about that. If you guys watch the videos and you tell me what you think in the chat or the comments about this. Remember when he showed up, the guy with the blonde hair, the witchy guy, and he's standing in front of the police and the guy with the dogs. He's in a lot of people's streams. He's not saying anything. He is not talking to anyone else. He is not still ranting. The second Aaron comes up to him, it's boom, boom, boom. He starts with his Scientology bull bait. Because in Scientology, they have this thing called bull baiting, where they try to push somebody's buttons over and over and over and over again to get a rise out of them. This guy was there to do that specifically to Aaron, to get him riled up. So look at this. I'm going to tell you my 2 cents about it, about what happened and how it went down as far as it being a setup. The series of events. The guy with the dog gets sent in. Get Aaron to follow you. Get Aaron away from the building so this doesn't go down right in front of the Church of Scientology. So that happens. He gets into an altercation. He gets followed. He brings a lot of people away from the building. Okay, now let's send in the crazy guy with the blonde hair, the witchy guy who's a Scientologist to bullbait Aaron and get in Aaron's face. And he did, with the whole goal of getting Aaron jacked up, of getting him upset, because you got someone in your face. And Aaron was handling that well and he was having fun with it. But do you see how it's like multiple prongs here of what's going on to escalate the situation? Because when Aaron would walk away, that guy didn't have jack to say to anybody else. He really wasn't saying much. He was just standing there and pacing. So if he was there in general to share his message and defend Scientology, why wasn't he doing it unless he was speaking directly to Aaron? You tell me. Was he sent there directly to try and bullbait Aaron to get him to snap? Or was it just a coincidence? I think you guys know. And this is why, and William Good, Scientology Audit, Streets LA, has done a great job during the couple of months that he's been out there protesting Scientology and bringing awareness. Don't take the bait. Scientology does their bull baiting. Don't take it. They're going to try to get you into, they're going to gaslight you. That's their tactic, to gaslight you into reacting with violence, to gaslight you into reacting like a fool, into taking the bait. And they'll do it in different ways too. It's not straight just people who identify as Scientologists out there doing it. They'll send in people who aren't actually Scientologists just to try and stir up trouble. We've seen it over and over and over again. And that's why I think it's so important. It's so important to recognize that when someone, and you'll see it in a lot of different places. You're going to see it in chats on all of our different channels for SPTV, where people are going to try and, create, you can disagree. You can not like Aaron. You can whatever, right? That's fine. But you'll see it with the live streamers too. There'll be people in their chats trying to create trouble. There'll be people there who are trying to create trouble. That's just going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. The important thing is to not take the bait. Don't respond to it. Don't react to it. Walk away, ignore it. It's just BS. It's just a distraction to upset you, where you're so upset and frustrated with the BS you're dealing with that you're just going to stop protesting Scientology. That's the goal. That's the goal with the harassment. It's gaslighting. See it for what it is. And remember, the reason that we're here, the reason that I'm here on YouTube is to share 35 years of my experience to help people have a mindset of Scientology and Scientologists, to help expose what they're doing, what they have done, and to help people, one, never get in the first place. And secondly, there are still people there who are good people, who are stuck there, trapped there, who have multi-generational families like I did, where you lose your whole family if you leave. The vast majority of Sea Organization members have never been on the internet. Think about it. When we saw the videos from the protesters from the management building where the L. Ron Hubbard Life exhibition is, when they were coming out, you'll notice a lot of them are older. They've been there a long time. Some of them would not know how to use a smartphone or get on the internet. They're not exposed to these things. And they're so beaten down mentally and emotionally. They're so controlled. They don't dare look up. Look up and see. Look up and use some of the lens. When Scientology wants you to look at a critic or somebody critical of Scientology, they want you to look at that person a certain way, and they want you to ask certain questions. They want you to investigate it in certain ways. Look at Scientology like that. It's a really big eye opener. And any of my friends in the ex-Scientology community, if you've been in the Sea Organization and otherwise, you know what I'm talking about. Anybody who's been trained in Scientology, especially from a young age, that's why you'll see too people who are a lot older in Scientology, and then you'll see the younger people tend to be second, third generation Scientologists who are groomed from a young age to join the Sea Organization. That's what happened with my sister and I. When my mom got into Scientology, I was 5 years old. From the moment that I started my Scientology indoctrination, it was all about training me to become a member of the Sea Organization. Because it's like, for them, it's like the ultimate thing that you can do in Scientology and a Scientology parent would be proud of. And the vast majority of them have no idea because the biggest rule in Scientology, don't talk about Scientology. You can talk to people about how much Scientology has helped you, how it has helped your life, but you can't talk about the fact that you're financially ruined because of Scientology, or that they locked you in a room, or that you have a family member in this organization that you haven't spoken to in years or heard from. None of that stuff. None of that stuff. Me and Taz is asking, how's Tony doing? Is he getting into shape for his YouTube appearance? You have almost 6,000 members. That's so awesome, guys. He's doing well. And if you're new to my channel, Tony's my partner. We've been together over 10 years, and he's gone through cancer treatment. He's recovering from that. He's doing well. I think he's here in the chat. And he said that he will join me on a live when we get to 10,000 subscribers. He knows I like a good game and a challenge, and I want to do that. And I got to tell you, this is why I have such a soft spot for all of you who've never been in Scientology, because you're not, there's this lens that I've spent 13 years cleaning up or removing, and I can still look through it, which is why on my channel I try to bring that understanding. I have to go back into that cult mindset to help share, this is what they're thinking, this is probably what they're going to do. And having Tony in my life, who's never been in Scientology, he sees it not through that lens. And those of you who've never been in Scientology, this is why you are so important and so vital to this movement. You don't see it through that lens. You see it for what it is. And it's helpful for me to be able to put the correct words to it, which I've done a lot of for 13 years. And it really gets to the point of what's really happening here in Scientology and with these protests. So Justin's asking, how can we support Aaron for legal fees? If you go to Aaron's channel, and if maybe somebody can share it in the chat, if not, I'll add it to the link below later. He does have I don't know if it's a PayPal or something like that, but through that, because YouTube takes 30% of the super chat money. So to support Aaron is in his legal fund, maybe somebody will make that more organized. I'm not sure. And I'm sure Aaron himself will say more about that too. So Linda's saying, skateboard guy is causing a lot of mischief. I don't trust his motives. What do you guys think about that? I did see at the after party, after all of this, when they were back there, him and Jessica PALMADESSA. She's here on YouTube. She's also on TikTok. I don't even know the channel for skateboard guy, but I did see what happened. Weird. Questionable. You guys tell me what you think. This is a great point, Mary. Is it Aja? Aja? On her Hollywood TikTok, it shows Aaron being cuffed before Patrick. This is infuriating. Yeah. They cuffed the victim even before you cuffed the perpetrator under this false felony stalking that this guy just pulled out of his ass. I'm going to have to charge you with felony stalking. Surely there's something less than that was even closely, that you could still have to twist and do some kind of mental gymnastics to make it seem like it fits. But no, this guy goes right to felony stalking, which, oh my gosh, it is absolutely, this is so, as horrible what it was, you guys, and as nerve-wracking and stressful. And it's unfortunate that happened to Aaron and that he needed to experience that. This is going to be one of the best things that ever happened. Trust me on that. If you haven't been following Aaron on Growing Up in Scientology, I'm sure you will start. He is like a dog with a bone. He's not going to back down. And that's why he doesn't care. He lets him know where he's going. I'm coming to LA. This is what I'm doing. It's the things that are going to come of this that backfire for Scientology are just so wonderful that I'm just here for all of it. And we're going to talk about it every day. Okay, so this is good. So Caffeinated Hi-Fi is sharing Aaron's merch store has donation forms. Okay, great. That's good. And Nancy, thank you. Looks like you're sharing a link there in there. Freak on a Leash. Skateboard guy is pretty hated by Squirrel. I'm just going to say Squirrel Squad after how he talked to Jessica. I agree. I found that disturbing. I think we need to keep an eye on that. Because what he was talking about has nothing to do with what people are there for. And whether it's intentional, whether it's Scientology, whether whatever, distractions have no place in this. Trying to create upset and conflict has no place in this. And they're going to see that over and over again. And William Good has done such a great job on helping to educate the other protesters on not taking the bait. Don't take the bait in your own chats when people are trying to gaslight you. Don't take the bait from people outside of that, from what's happening around the Scientology testing center. And this movement's going to grow even more to different churches of Scientology all over the country, if not the world. More and more people are going to be outraged by this. Scientologists should be outraged by this. You should see this. Scientologists see this. And I mean, look at what happened. The public in general are outright raged by this, and they will be. And there's going to be so many more calls now to the LAPD to investigate why it wasn't investigated sooner, why it's being allowed. Leaving Scientology, what is your prediction for Scientology's behavior today? Let's talk about it. Okay. You guys tell me too in the comments in the chat. What do you think is going to happen today? So I think they're going to go back, right? And they're going to continue protesting. I'm going to be following it, even though I'm going to be enjoying myself at an RV show. And Steve Britton, if you're in the chat, it is camping. He told me yesterday, he got in there, he's like, that's not camping. He's so funny. But I'm going to have an ear pod in and I'm going to be following along with what's happening. So they're going to be out there protesting again, and we're going to have to see. It's, Scientology is just dumb enough, and they're being led by a dictator that is so out of touch with the rest of the world. We're going to have to see. I'm sure there's going to be more ops trying to create dissent within the group, trying to distract, trying to get them away from the testing center, get them away from Scientology buildings. I would say this. If you are there in Hollywood and you're a part of this protest, no matter what happens, if some people need to go to another location, do keep people at the Hollywood testing center. If you're protesting outside of the blue buildings and something happens somewhere else, keep people there. That's why having more, people at different locations to be able to catch what's going on is so great, because it's not by accident that what happened took place away from Scientology buildings. That's very intentional on Scientology's part. Diana is saying, we all knew Scientology desperation would start showing big time. They're stirring up trouble, just hoping that would stop the protests and social media content. They done messed up. Yes, Diane, you were so right. They messed up. They just messed up so bad that it's great. I mean, you could see it too. You look at, I don't doubt, I mean, what Aaron went through is, from my point of view where I sit, I'd be traumatized as hell. It wouldn't stop me. I get right back up, which is what Aaron did. He got out of jail and he was right back at the Hollywood testing center doing his thing, smiling, talking about it, what his plans are. He's going to be sharing about it. He's going to be talking about it a lot. There's going to be a lot. There's going to be so much more about this, and anything that happens today, it's going to be the same thing, just exposing it. It all brings more attention to Scientology and the abuses within the organization, and that they're a cult and what they're doing. So whatever they're going to do, let them just capture it on video and share it, but don't take the bait. And don't take the bait amongst yourselves either. If there's people trying to create dissent and upset and gaslight people, let them. You can't do that if you don't play. You can't do that if you don't, get into an argument with them about it. You can't argue it's stupid. You can't. Just let it be. Let them do whatever they're going to do. Just videotape it and share it. JRH is saying Aaron or his rep should get in touch with ACLU. That would get a bone over this incident. Yeah, interesting. I am sure there's going to be a whole plan and a lot of different people involved and a lot more people watching today. That's why I'm saying Scientology messed up so hugely. The LAPD messed up so hugely, because now there was already added attention because Aaron was going to be there from growing up in Scientology, Liz Gale, other people who have been whistleblowing and speaking out against Scientology have been there and also were there. So that already was bringing more attention to it this weekend. Now there's going to be even more. There's going to be even more people watching the live streams. There's going to be even more people trying to find out, like, I need to catch up. I need to catch up. Maybe they didn't know that these protests were happening, but they're going to know now. Mary, OMG, I was so scared for him, but he is a freaking rock star. Love all the attention this is getting. Yes, absolutely. So as much as, like, initially for me, it was like fear, outrage, fear, outrage. I just kind of went back and forth between those. And I got to tell you this, I slept great last night. I really did. Because by the time my night winded down and I was done, and I think I'd finished most of the live streams, I realized how amazing this is, how great this actually is, because the LAPD and Scientology just did something that is going to bring more light, more sunshine, more eyes, more ears on the fact that Scientology is a human trafficking cult, and the abuses that have been being perpetuated, people being held there, more and more and more. That's going to come out. That's coming out. It is completely going to backfire. So if you're feeling any type of, feel your feelings, right? Feel your feelings. I did too. But then take some deep breaths, take a step back, and recognize that this is such a turning point. This is such a turning point in exposing Scientology. It's a huge turning point. It's going to bring more attention. Chandra Rowe, it was wild, but you're right. This is going to blow up in the face of Scientology big time. We should figure out if we can help via this community. Contact local news stations, maybe. Yeah, why not? Let them know. It's all over social media. If you have any contacts in the media, why not? There's so many ways to get this message out. People on the internet, have a bigger reach than regular media, but it doesn't mean that they shouldn't still be covering it. It doesn't mean that word should not still be gotten out that way. Allie, arresting Aaron is going to backfire on Church of Scientology and LAPD big time. It is. It completely is. Willie Weed is saying, just watched an audit this morning on the Italian org. Oh, interesting. If you get a sec, could you email me at natalie@tonkatalk.com and let me know what the link is for that? I can look it up later, but it really helps me out when you guys email me with links to things. Oh, Denise. When they handcuffed Aaron, all I could do was cry. Oh, makes me well up now. Yes. The thing that I knew, and, in knowing Aaron, I knew he'd be okay. He knew going into this that he knows Scientology's after him. That's not a secret. He knew that they were going to try and pull something. They do. They always do. It's what they do. But I can only imagine. It's, when he has a chance to decompress and sit down when he's back home and have multiple conversations about this. I'd like to know too. I think he'll get more in depth. I'm sure he needs time as well to process what happened, because what happened to him was, in my opinion, traumatic. I would find it traumatic. Being just physically, mentally, and otherwise. Jess Z, there are a handful of protesters who have really short fuse and they need to grow up quick or they're not going to be welcomed by Will and others. That is correct. That is correct. Protesting Scientology is not for everybody. It's not. If you are someone who is quick to anger, who has a short fuse, I don't suggest you do it. There are so many ways to contribute. You could be, online, reaching out to elected officials, helping people find their elected officials, continuing to spread this message through social media. But yeah, when you're there on the ground, you really, and this is what I love so much about William Good, he can keep it together. Remember the crazy guy who did end up getting arrested, who, blew his nose on him and was just screaming and acting crazy, who identified himself as a Scientologist? And Will was just cool as a cucumber. Reality check, Jules. Aaron said last night he's suing the LAPD, and so he should. Most of those officers who were standing around laughing should be sacked. And for sure, Tallman has got to go. I like that. Tallman has got to go. And ones like him. He's not the only one. He's not the only one. Kyle, Do you think if they talk about defunding the police, they will get a different result from the LAPD since they've already changed Scientology's operation? I don't know. I think ultimately the message is it's about exposing Scientology and the corruption with this relationship between them and the LAPD. Let's not forget what happened when they supposedly went and spoke to Shelley Miscavige to confirm she was not missing. It came out later that either earlier, some time ago, they had fingerprints from Shelley Miscavige, and when they went to do this wellness check, they didn't match. So who was the real Shelley Miscavige? I don't know. I'm still not convinced that. I mean, I think she's probably where people think she is, which is at CST, which is another confidential location for Scientology, high up, and she's there doing a job. And probably, a lot of times when you're being held in Scientology, you don't know you're being held there. You think that, like, okay, let's go back to this concept of what they call security watch, which is where you're not allowed to be alone. There's always someone with you, keeping an eye on you to make sure you don't leave. But they convince you that they're there for you. They're there to help you, to make sure that you don't get too upset and stuff. Bullshit. They were there to make sure I didn't leave. That's what they're there for. When I was being watched by security, that was exactly it. And that's why they showed up to my hotel room, got rid of my cab, and told me what would happen if I left. It's all just dumb intimidation tactics. Yep, caffeinated hi-fi. They want Aaron gone. They do. That's all this is about. And all it's doing is amplifying the message. There needs to be hearings looking into Scientology's tax-exempt status because they don't operate as a nonprofit should. There's no community benefit. They have $1 billion in land assets and they're not paying taxes. People often wonder, why is it if let's be generous. Let's be generous and say there's 20 to 30,000 Scientologists on the planet. How can that small group of people have all of this real estate and all of this money? Because you got to remember, Scientology has been around for, well, let's just say since 1950, and accumulating Scientologists of means because they're there to help the able more able. And they support people who do that, who support them. They build these relationships with different people. There are Scientologists who have donated over $100 million to Scientology. And it's a tax donation for them. It's a tax write-off. So that's such a benefit for them. Donating money for Scientology services. That's why you got to hit them in the wallet. And that's why it's so important to have this inquiry, to have hearings looking into. Let's look into it. We're just asking them. You're asking your elected officials, would you support hearings into looking into Scientology's tax exempt status? And then follow through. Follow through and do it. And yes, in the chat, yes, I will give you that RV camping is luxury camping and glamping, but it's still camping. I need to be comfortable. I do. I'm in my 50s. I'm like, my days of putting the tent, taking it down, I'm just like, no. I spent so many years uncomfortable, especially in Scientology, that I just want to be comfortable now. Really, it's just that simple. But I think it's so funny. Gail, thank you so much. Yes, and please like and subscribe. Thank you for the reminders. So today, I think in addition to the protesters there, my hope is that they're going to go to other locations as well. That's what I'm hoping. Because you got the blue buildings there where the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles is. Chris Without a Hellcat has been there, and he got on video Julian Schwartz, who's being looked for right now by the authorities, who Scientology can't find. There he was on video. Soon as he shows up on video, what happens? Boom, blinds come down. Now you can't see into the building at all, though you kind of can because they use these, but it would be harder to identify somebody. I wouldn't be surprised if they got Julian Schwartz out of the building and somewhere else altogether. Sent him on a mission. But we know that he's there. Scientologists know that he's there. That's the whole thing. Scientology knows where these people are. Mark is saying Aaron is going to have to come back if Patrick goes to trial. He will. He can do that. He said he would. He completely would. Would and should happily would do that. So some people are saying too, like the officer, that he was a Scientologist. We know for sure that he is an ally of Scientology, that he has been at events. He has shown support for Scientology. And based on his actions, I think that pretty much says it all. Is he an actual Scientologist? I question that. There are many people, not Scientologists, especially in law enforcement, who will support Scientology because they get paid to, because there's a lot of perks that go with that. Don't forget, think about Clearwater. John Travolta and Leah Remini has talked about this, how celebrities are used to gain support from law enforcement and elected officials. They get to go to their private homes, come to a barbecue, and all you have to do is support Scientology. That's what happens. There are different nonprofits for the police. Scientology will donate to that or get Scientologists to donate to it. It's all about building these relationships. Scientology, and I don't know if this is just a Scientology term or if it's a normie term outside of Scientology as well. So you guys tell me. Safe pointing. In Scientology, it's called safe pointing, where they try and create allies with different groups so that you think well of Scientology, just in case they hear something about Scientology that's the actual truth. So they go out and try to work with multiple organizations, different interfaith groups, and try to claim to be a part of that community. And that's all public relations. It's all what they call safe pointing and positioning. They want to position themselves with legitimate organizations that help. They try to position themselves with legitimate people who help so that people think that, hey, Scientology is not so bad. Look at these things that she's doing, that they're doing, that are helping, but they're not. It's all propaganda, or they're out there long enough to take the photos. Do you know how many people have left the Sea Organization that used to work in Golden Era Productions and have shared how many of those scenes that you see of volunteer ministers helping people were staged, recreated, just made up? And that's what's shown to Scientologists. That's how we know it's propaganda. As a Scientologist, I attended multiple events, and towards the end, I mean, you just start. This is part of my process of leaving was fact checking what David Miscavige was saying at these propaganda events that were mandatory for all of us. And I start finding out, like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. What he said isn't true. This person's not supporting Scientology. That's so twisted. It's all so twisted. And then it opened my eyes up because I'm like, well, wait a minute. If they're lying about this, what else are they lying about? And then you just, you go down the rabbit hole and you find out. And you start shedding that cult culture and start breaking the rules. I used to hide in my basement with my computer when this was before I think Facebook was out then when I was leaving Scientology, but YouTube wasn't a whole thing. It was there, I think, but not like it is today with live streaming and all that. And there were these chat groups and message boards for ex-Scientologists. And I would be in there learning about all these things, the truth about L. Ron Hubbard and his history, not the lies that we were told in Scientology about him, about his military career, about his wives, like all these things. And then I would clear my history and go upstairs because my husband at the time, I didn't know where he stood on things and I wasn't ready. I was executing my plan to leave Scientology with my family, and we did leave together. It's that I think is going to be different. I feel today that the process of leaving Scientology or understanding what Scientology really is based on their actions is going to happen a lot faster. Because if this existed during my time when I was leaving and I could see it play out this way, I think it would have been a faster process. Yep, that's true. Someone sharing how the guy who blew snot on Streets LA also identifies as a Satanist. There was a survey done once of like, I'm going to paraphrase. It was like, what religions do you hate the most? Or what are the worst religions? And Scientology tied with Satanism. Just crazy. Tied at the bottom. I don't know if Scientology was just slightly worse. This is the perception out there. And a lot of Scientologists don't know this. I didn't. I knew there were some people that didn't like Scientology, but I didn't know that I was in a cult despite so many horrific things that happened to me and my family over 35 years. You're convinced that it's just you because you're not allowed to talk to each other. You're not getting together and going, hey, someone kick your ass today? You're not. You think it's only you because that's what they make you believe and gaslight you into believing that what happened to you, it's because you deserved it. Paralyzed to paralyzed. Can we talk about Mindy? Yeah, let's talk about Mindy for a minute. Mindy, also known as Purple Jacket Lady. Early on, people suspected that she was a plant from Scientology. You got to kind of accept people at face value. I could be proved wrong completely, but I'm like, she seems fine. What do you want to talk about Mindy? She was there. Boy, she got a good voice, though. I heard that she was singing. Outside of that, I don't know much about her. She showed up at the protest. People are saying Shelly's still in the hole. So Mark Murphy thinks that Mindy is a helpful clout chaser. Best guessed about her, but not a plant. I'd lean towards not a plant. And it wouldn't matter if she was. That's the thing. And this is what I hope people take away and remember. It doesn't matter. Because this is being done, what we're doing and we're communicating is about transparency, honesty, and openness. What happens within Scientology? These are our experiences. These are the experiences of other people. If people want to come up and cause trouble and spy for Scientology, what do you got to spy on? We're all on the internet. We're all live streaming our thoughts. It's no secret what I think. It's no secret what my history is in Scientology either. All that is out there. So what are they going to find out? They'll try to lie. They make stuff up anyways. So it kind of just doesn't matter. Chichikana, Little Mermaid karaoke is not why we're there, though. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Someone was playing music, had a giant speaker, and usually it's Scientology that's blaring the music, but they were blaring the music instead. The music's fun. Sometimes it adds to the atmosphere, but I'm not sure. Sometimes it's a bit much. And brought in by somebody else too. I thought well, why would you be doing that? Somebody says, great question, Tony. See, I missed my Tony's question. Oh, that's the other Tony. Oh, Tony Edwards is asking, who does Scientology bank with in the USA? No idea. No idea. I'm sure some people know. And thank you so much, Dip Me in Glitter, for sharing the merch link too. So Susan saying Patrick will be released. So this is the guy with the dog who assaulted Aaron, will be released either by a judge or out on bond. Then he will be out there again. And is he going to be stupid enough to show up again? Don't you think there should be a restraining order or something? Or he'd at least be like, you know what? I'm not trying to. How dedicated of an ally are you to Scientology? And I'm sure that they've told him, go at it. We'll bail you out. We have empty pockets and ton of lawyers. We'll get you out of there. Wouldn't be the first time. Yep. The Michael Malloy show. Hollywood division of the LAPD protecting Scientology. Yeah. I mean, we see it over and over again. Aaron gets assaulted and police don't show up. But nothing happens and the police show up. We've seen on live streams where we're watching in real time. Nothing's happening. And they call the police and say somebody out there has a weapon. Yeah. JP, they also all of a sudden started posting an article on January 18th about the volunteer ministers giving out food weekly and had other news sites reposting the link. Next week, I'm going to get a little bit more into this, and that is exactly it. You'll start seeing them trying to scramble on a local level. They're actually reaching out to different interfaith organizations that they've worked with before. And I hope that these other organizations open their eyes to what's going on. And they're trying to get donations of food and things to hand out to paint themselves because they know that they're getting their asses handed to them. And people are like, you're not a nonprofit who's actually helping people. Showing up and giving out way to happiness booklets when people's homes have just been devastated and they have no food, water, or shelter. Those are the needs that need to be met first, not a way to happiness booklet. They're going to be exposed for that too, that these are just front groups. I know, I shared my story. I worked with the Foundation for a Drug-Free World, which is a Scientology front group. At the time I was in Scientology, I got a hair up my butt and thought it would be fun to do this Mrs. Minnesota pageant, and it was fun. And you needed to have a platform. And I definitely was passionate about drug abuse because my biological father, it's something he struggled with for many years. And all they wanted to do was sell me books, Scientology books. They sent me some booklets that other Scientologists paid for. But when I would reach out thinking that, oh, they're going to help me get this message out, the Foundation for a Drug-Free World just wanted to sell me Scientology books because that's when they were really pushing. They had all these new, all of L. Ron Hubbard's basic books were redone. It's just BS. That was also part of me leaving Scientology. Here I am trying to spread a message that I'm passionate about, that I have a connection to. And you don't want to help me with that, but you want to sell me books. Freak on a Leash. Have you seen Help Me Film Them in MacArthur Park? No, I haven't. He used your advice. He kept saying flunk, start. Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. I need to find that. If somebody can email me, Natalie@tonkatalk.com, that'd be great. So another video, I'd come up with some things that I think would be helpful for people to saying to whoever, people who are, Scientologists that primarily Scientologists or people who are in security for Scientology. And I've been asked a couple times to make a PDF or list out of this, but I just haven't had the bandwidth. But maybe somebody can help me with that. And one of them is to say flunk, start, because in Scientology, every drill you do, you have a student. So say I'm the student, and then you have a coach. So say you're the coach. I'm learning how to do a specific training routine in Scientology. Maybe it's bull baiting, right? Maybe you're pushing my buttons and you're calling me names and I laugh. When we're doing the drill, you say flunk and then you start again. Every drill and practice in Scientology. And if you want to have a conversation about a side convo about it, you say, that's it. And that's the cue that you're taking it. Like, I need to talk about this with you. And then it's start. And when you mess up, it's flunk. But that is a way like that. It gets through to them. Sometimes yelling about Xenu and body thetans doesn't get through to them because most Scientologists don't know about that, because most Scientologists don't do the upper levels in Scientology. They don't get that far, the majority. I did through operating thetan level 4, so I got to do the whole Xenu thing and all that. Joanna UHL, didn't Aaron recently explain that these tunnels under the buildings mean that Julian Schwartz never has to leave the building? Yes. I forget if there's a connection between the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles, that the tunnel goes under L. Ron Hubbard Way and connects to the other building. I think that that's the case. I'd never been down in those tunnels, and I used to live in the blue buildings when I was in the Sea Organization. But I remember hearing about them, that the tunnels existed, and people on the Rehabilitation Project Force, which was Scientology's Sea Organization gulag, where you got sent for reprogramming when you really messed up in their eyes. I heard that they maintained the tunnels, would clean them up and stuff like that. But I would say most Sea Org members probably don't even know about it. But I had heard that too. I remember there could be days where I wouldn't have to leave the building, not even with the tunnels, just because on L. Ron Hubbard Way, the buildings, you know where the big lion is, that big metal lion that you see on L. Ron Hubbard Way, that's connected. All the buildings on that block, you can walk all the way through on the inside. Sometimes you got to go to a different level, but they're connected. And that's why often Sea Organization members don't even need to leave the buildings. You live there, you eat there, you work there. Does that sound like human trafficking? You're not allowed to leave. They hold on to your passport if you have one. You don't have a driver's license. You don't have a bank account. You're not allowed to talk to your family. You're encouraged to cut them off. Your mail's gone through. Your phone calls are listened in on. When my daughter, Shelby, was in Florida training as a staff member here in the Twin Cities, there were times when she would call me and I knew somebody was on the phone, especially when I had decided I was going to leave Scientology. When I decided to leave Scientology, no matter what, it was a gradual, like I had doubts for years. I wanted to leave so many times. But the moment where I'm like, that is it. I'm done. I don't care. As long as I have my children, I don't care if my family comes. I mean, don't get me wrong. I cared. I cared hugely. I should say I was willing to lose them. but I knew I would be able to take my kids. Two of my kids were they minors at the time? I don't remember, but I could get my kids, was when I was in a mall shooting, when I was visiting friends in Seattle, hiding out in a Journey store because gunfire broke out. And in that moment thought, oh my gosh, if I died in this mall shooting, I'm going to die stuck, still not having lived my life, not having experienced certain things that I wanted to, or I was curious about that we weren't allowed to study or learn about or do in Scientology. And from that point, it took me 2 years to leave. That's how heavy, like, I'm fortunate, and I worked my ass off to make this happen, to make sure that most of my family left with me. I still have some other family members who they aren't really active in Scientology, and it's mostly my step family by marriage, but they were my family growing up. Because I don't know if you know this about me, but my family, my mom was married to my stepdad. She divorced him and married his dad, and then I got grandpa dad. So grandpa dad and my stepdad, same family. So I had the same family growing up for a while, even though my mom had remarried. It's a whole thing. If you're new to my channel, I talk about it on earlier videos as well. Many of you who've been with me from the beginning can explain to people who grandpa dad is and how that came about. But it's that whole, when I'm growing up in Scientology, this is before I went in the Sea organization, the kind of things that can happen that people don't question. Because my grandpa dad was like the cult leader in our family, the person who was highest up on the bridge to total freedom. And that's who people listen to. So that mind control is happening at home, and it's also happening within the Church of Scientology, and it's reinforced at home. Scientologists who think that they are doing things that are good for their kids. My mom, my sister, and I, when we were punished, would have to do Scientology training routines as children where you have to sit across from each other and just face each other. Can you imagine getting into a full-blown fight with one of your siblings and you're forced to sit there and look eye to eye with them? It's effed up. Diana, yeah, grandpa dad still gets you. Oh my gosh, Murphy, cult daddies. Yeah, all three of my stepdads were Scientologists. Salty Writer, did you ever know Mimi Rogers, Tom Cruise's first wife, and the person that got him into it? Nope, I did not, but I'd heard a lot about her. I heard that she got him into Scientology, and then she was drifting away and had doubts and left Scientology with, having doubts, and that's why, you can't have that. And then their marriage broke up. Same thing with Nicole Kidman. Tom Cruise was not active in Scientology for like a good decade. And when he was brought back into the fold, there was a whole operation to turn Tom and Nicole's children against Nicole, who didn't want to be in Scientology anymore, and convince the kid that she's a suppressive person, which, it's so interesting how many of Tom Cruise's exes turn out to be suppressive people. He has a type, and it's suppressive. So Tony's asking, how is it possible that an ex-Scientologist does not know who their bankers are? That the bankers for Scientology, how would you know that? If you're a parishioner or you're not working in that level, you know what? I would have known back in the day when I was in the Sea organization, but I don't remember because I did have to take money to a bank. But they're probably different. Scientology has money everywhere. You know what? I wouldn't doubt that somebody in the ex-Scientology community has not only already put together how the banking works and how people are connected that way. Violet, Natalie, were you out there at the testing center after Aaron was released last night? No, I'm in the Midwest. I'm not there. I'm not there, and I wasn't there. Yeah, you're right, Tony. If paid in cash against labor laws, and they are, we were always given our money in cash. Oh, technically, you met Nicole and Keith and younger kids at your job once. That's cool. I'm so glad that she's happy. I'm so glad that she found freedom and happiness and not just got away from Tom Cruise, but got away from Scientology. My heart breaks that, her children are active Scientologists, her adopted children with Tom Cruise. So, I question I worry about that relationship and what that's like. Hey, Art, fellow Midwesterner. Good to see you. Chi Chicana, I was there, had to leave when Mindy began singing. hmm Daniel, you're right. LRH also took a lot of ideas from Aleister Crowley. Yeah, Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons. These are things as Scientologists you don't know about. You don't learn about this. It's not part of the biography for L. Ron Hubbard in Scientology. His whole life exhibition, BS. His whole museum about his life, BS. Some of it, of course, is true. Much of it is not, or twisted around. It's amazing. That's all Scientologists know. And why would they question it? Because you want to believe. You want to believe that your cult leader, that the founder of your cult was a good person, helped people, had a great military career, other things. You want to believe that. And then when you start doubting it, you're like, what else are they lying about? And then you look into it. And then you find out really more of what the truth is and what's happening. So I think we're going to see a lot more today going on. And I will likely probably come on tomorrow morning again to recap what happens tonight. You guys know my email, natalie@tonkatalk.com. Let me know, links, what you see, what you think. I think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Gil 34. I was trying to read that. You're the only SP who pronounces Crowley correctly. Am I? I don't even know. Dip Me in Glitter, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing my email there. You can see it there. And if you're catching this in the replay, get in the comments. I want to hear what you think too about all of this. And where do you think that it's going to go? Be sure to hit the like button on your way out and subscribe to the channel. It really helps. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of your support. And I'm here for all of this. So let's pay attention to what happens today. I'll be looking into a lot of things and be sharing about it likely tomorrow. And I cannot wait to see what happens today. But remember the biggest thing, right? Keep the message on point. We want people to contact people in Congress. Would you support hearings looking into the tax-exempt status of Scientology? Share about the abuses. There are reasons why. It's not just we don't like Scientology for no reason. It's not even about what they believe. It's about the actions, the abuses that have occurred, are occurring, the destruction of families in Scientology. That's the problem. That's the issue. The covered up abuse, all those things. Doesn't matter what they can believe and practice as they will, but they cannot hold people against their will. They cannot commit these abuses and hide behind tax exempt status and that you're a church and this is just how you do things. The times are changing, Scientology, and the live streamers are out there and they're going to be capturing it all. So thank you so much for being here, all of your support. I hope to see you again. In the meantime, I hope you get out there and you have the most amazing cult-free day.